So unfortunately, this video is late, and if you want to find out why, you can stick around to the end and I'll tell you. But let's get on with this video. I'm Nima, and let's talk about a game called El Shaddai, or El Shaddai as I thought. And yes, it was an older game, but recently they had a HD remaster of it, if you will. And there's a lot about this game that I really didn't know about. Like, honestly, most of it. And if I'm being honest, I still don't know that much about it. Well, if you look it up, you can find out that El, in this instance, actually means God, and Shaddai or Shaddai, roughly translate into human breast. I'm gonna admit, I thought about this way too much. Exactly what does that mean? And I still couldn't figure it out. And if you think that the title is confusing, well, my friend, the game itself has got many, many good surprises for you. This game is sort of like if you had took some very good hallucinogens, I mean the very best that money can buy, then you read the Bible, and then the next day, when you're still kind of hungover, feeling weird, you then had to do an oral report about everything that you just read in the Bible. That is exactly my best example of what I could explain this game is about, because it is borrowing from religious texts, apparently. Now, I can say that is one thing I really should be more educated on, but I'm not. Now, I know the J's, I know Job, Judas, Jesus, them, but they don't really pop up in this, so I'm not exactly sure what religious text this was borrowing from, but I do actually think that this comes from the Christian Bible, only because the main goal of this game is to track down 7 fallen angels, and you essentially have got to bring them to Christ. And luckily for you, they're all in one tower. Although this tower, I feel like, was built on a Native American burial ground or something, because there's some weird crap that happens in here. Like, I'm not saying just Native American burial ground, I'm also saying like there's a black hole going on in there. There is all sorts of craziness going on. But as you ascend this tower, you will fight and defeat all of the fallen angels. And that's really the whole purpose of the game, but like I said, it's one heck of a ride. Like, you might think like, oh, so it just has one environment? No, there's many, many environments in this tower. And I can honestly say as well that this game, while all of that is kind of important, and they even take the time to say, hey, we borrow from religious texts, and we kind of make a big deal about the story, the soul of this game is combat and platforming. Those are the two biggest things that you do in the game. And I would say both are kind of simplistic, but also have a touch of creativity to them. For instance, the combat, which is the thing I think most people are going to enjoy with this game. It is incredibly simple. There's only a couple buttons to use, but it all has to do with the type of weapon you have, and that I think is also really cool. There's 3-4 different weapons that you can use, and when you do wield them, your attack changes completely. The way that you attack, your technique, however you're going to do things really depend on what weapon you're using. Not only that, there is only one attack button, but there's like modifiers, meaning like the right bumper. If you use that and attack, you can also switch up things by which direction you're using and the attack. It's interesting because when I first started playing the game, I really wanted there to be more attack buttons or options. I wanted there to be more, I felt. But as I continued playing it, I really found the beauty of the simplicity of combat in this. Because yes, there is a very simple, basic one-button attack, but there is some complexity to it. There is some depth, and I don't know, I really appreciated that, especially when you start wielding other weapons, when you start worrying about attacking and parrying, and countering, blocking, things of that nature. Now, I will say the one button I did miss, or the action that I really did miss, was a dodge. I just felt like in so many games now, dodge is so important, but it wasn't such a huge thing back in the day, I guess. But I really wanted that, that's my main defense when it comes to action type titles. You know, anything from Prince of Persia to Dark Souls. I really like the ability to just avoid being hit at all, like not blocking, because I'm not great at timing a parry or a counter or a block. For me, it's just easier just to run away than hit them from behind. And although I did miss my dodge ability, I really did find a different kind of gaming experience. Something that took me back into like PlayStation 2 and God of War. Yes, this game really reminded me of like old school God of War. And I think that that's one reason why, is because it is a little bit more just brutal. Like there is less defending, there's less worrying about not getting hit, and just button mashing at times, and sometimes just worrying about how many times you can whack your opponent. Although that is one negative side for me, if I'm being honest. Sometimes the enemies are a bit spongy, and not even the bosses. Like the bosses I get, just random enemies will sometimes be really spongy. It's pretty insane, because you can't really determine which way it's gonna go. Sometimes you run up on enemies and you think, oh man, this is gonna take forever, and you just blast through them. And then there's other times you just go on the same type of enemy, and you realize you've just been whacking the crap out of this poor dude for half a century or so. For me, like, that inconsistency was a bit of an issue, but ultimately it didn't take away from much of the game. There's so much of this game, like I said, is just fun. It's weird to say that about a game that is based on religious text about 7 fallen angels going through these psychotic, chaotic environments where God knows what is happening. And yet, at the same time, you can just say, man, this is a lot of fun. The platforming is the same way. It's rough at times. There's some really difficult jumps and some, I don't know, locked in camera situations that just make it more and more difficult than it should be. But you immediately respawn right from where you took the jump. And even though you would rather have it built a little bit different, platforming would be a little bit easier to see. Not exactly easier to perform, but just to be able to see where you're going. It still is just kind of fun because of how quickly you're able to respawn and you're able to move forward. There's nothing that is unachievable in the game, and even when you die, you don't really lose anything. It's things like that that I think make the game just fun. Yeah, it's rough. It's got a few little retro burrs on it, if you will, but it really doesn't take away from the game itself. And graphically, the game looks good. The game also performs really well. I never had any crashes. It doesn't lag too much. There isn't a lot of problems with performance in general. No, the voice acting is not great, but I didn't really expect it to be amazing. But it's definitely serviceable. And I can say that you get about 10 hours of content out of the game, which for me is almost a sweet spot when it comes to action games anymore. I know that some people like the 20, 30 hours, but really, like, for me, 10 is perfect. And for the price, I think it's well worth it. And so with everything combined together, I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. It's a really fun game. It's not gonna be too complex. It's not gonna hit you over the head with any deep stories, or at least ones that you can follow completely. But it's just fun. And yeah, I enjoyed my time with it. I'm glad I played it. And so for all of you that are still around, that stayed for the little story at the end, number one, you're awesome. You're amazing. And don't get me wrong, those other people, they were good too. But let's be honest, you're a little bit better, aren't you? Yeah. Well, okay, we have a sad story though, to be honest. So, my Switch, my baby, got her in 2020 during a very dark time, and I ended up having to pay a premium to pick her up. Yes, the OLED Switch dropped in fall of 2020, and I had to pay $100, let's just say tax, to acquire one. And unfortunately, she stopped taking a charge on, was it like Sunday night? And I figured I could make it work. Like, we could figure something out. I dealt with it all day Monday. I'm still trying to just, it didn't occur to me that it was broke, okay? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, something else is wrong. I can fix this. Something's going on. And then finally, Monday, probably at about, well, I guess it'd be Tuesday morning at like 1 a.m. I was like, this is it. It's done. She's gone. So unfortunately, I had to spend all of yesterday going out and acquiring a Switch. And, listen, this one's got my love too. I love this new one. But I don't know, something, I just miss the old one. And I have to say, my new Switch is really just been downloading. Like, that's all it's been doing for the last like 24 hours. And so Hey, other behind the scenes kind of thing. If I'm just using like other people's gameplay video or trailer for the video in this, you'll know why, because I have no access to my Switch because it's just downloading stuff. Hopefully it's done by the time this goes up, so I can put my own gameplay of El Shaddai in there. But if not, you know what happened. You're part of the inner circle. You stayed. You know what's going on. But anyway, guys, I love each and every one of you. Let me know in the comment section below, though, what your thoughts are on this game. If you're interested in this game, is this a game that you've heard of, or one that you've been looking forward to? Or really just let me know what games you're playing or what games you're interested in playing, or you're excited, you can't wait for them to drop. Any of that. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Love y'all. Bye-bye.